Check one, two, check one, two. What is going on, everybody? Happy Friday to everyone out there in Circle Land, in YouTube land, and in Twitter land. We trying to get all over the world, y'all. We trying to see everybody, hit everybody, and share the good news about amazing people that are doing amazing things in our communities uh, all over the world. And so today is Circle Talk, and today I'm kind of excited because I know this individual a little bit. We've known each other since I was about yay high, young tyke in high school, running to school, getting in lots of trouble, and doing what I do. But this individual, she has always been, even back then, always smiling, always energetic, always funny, always friendly, but always dedicated to uh, uh, her studies and excelling at any and everything that she did. She was on the swim team. I remember I checked her out a couple times when she was at some meets, because me as a guy, we like to see the women, so we'd go to the swim meets, and she was always there doing her thing. And she's just an amazing person as a whole, and I'm excited to talk with her and learn more about what's been going on with her life after high school and today. Principal at Silas High School, which is formerly Wilson High School for those that are out there that have not got the memo yet. We'll dig into that as well and talk about all the changes that have been transpiring over there at that school. Uh, Such an amazing person. And so we're going to get into it with Bernadette Ray here real quick. But first, we got to give our shout out to our sponsor, iShopta.com. If anybody's in the area that is looking for some pictures, whether they're graduation pictures, whether they're wedding pictures, anniversary pictures, or headshots for job openings or whatnot, my guy Marvin Patterson is the guy you want to talk to. He has all the 411. He's got a great deal going on right now. Just hit him up, iShopta.com. Great guy. So without further ado, I don't want to keep anybody waiting. I know there's people anticipating this interview. And so we're going to jump right into it with Miss Bernadette Ray. So let's bring her on.
Hey,
Howdy, how's it going?
it's going well. It's going
I,
well. Thank you
I
for
was
that
having some
introduction.
issues trying to get this thing when I was trying to go live. I was like, wait a minute, why does it keep throwing her? Why does he go? I'm still working this thing, you guys. Trust me. It's new. I've done a few different types of these platforms, and this one is no different from the others. You got to learn it in order to figure it out. So it's been a journey. But how are you doing today, Miss Bernadette?
I am doing well. I am happy it's Friday and it's the Friday before school starts. So I'm excited. I'm doing really
Yeah.
well.
Well, first off, obviously, I want to thank you for coming on and spending some time with me. I know you've been pretty busy. I know you're actually working, even though you aren't at schools yet. You're still working to get everything up and ready to go. How excited are you to get back to school?
I'm really excited. I think we're all a little apprehensive,
Yeah.
especially with the Delta variant, but we know that kids need to be back in school. So I was just meeting with my administrative team, actually talking about what are the things we need to map out. What do students and parents want to know? Because some kids haven't been in school in a year and a half.
Right, right.
So, where do I go for lunch? Where do I park my car? We're going to send out this mass communication this weekend so that folks have a reference and they know what to do.
Yeah. So I'm going to actually, I don't want to jump into the school just yet. I actually wanted to start off by just talking about your life and where it all started for you. So let's talk about where are you from, your upbringing. How was the life as a child? Let us know a little bit about that. Where did it all start for you?
Okay. So I'm from the TAC, raised but not born.
Okay.
So my parents are from back east. My mom's from New York and my dad's from North Carolina. They met in New York, and my dad joined the Army when my mom was in nursing school. So my brother Matt and I were actually born in Panama because that's where my
Oh
parents
wow.
were stationed.
Wow.
So I spent my first 2 years in Panama, and then we came to the Northwest from Fort Lewis. So
Okay.
we've been here since I was two, and so this is my home. And
Yeah.
I went to all Tacoma schools, Stanley, Franklin, Hunt, Stadium, and then UPS, and then UW Tacoma. So
Hey.
I am Tacoma through and through.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
All the way.
I that's so cool that I never knew that. I'm obviously a military brat. My parents are actually from Louisiana. They both, were born and raised in Louisiana. But my dad was stationed here, and on the way to Fort Lewis, they had me in Seattle. So
Oh,
uh, I was born in Seattle, but I'm Tacoma through and through as well. So that's
right.
kind of interesting. Panama, huh?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
How
They
long were
lived
you
there.
guys there for?
So uh, I think it was 2 years. It was probably, they might have been there for three.
Uh,
Um, but my mom always jokes that she was pregnant the whole time she was there because both Matt and I were born there. And my dad would be training, he'd be out in the jungle. And so mom was holding it down at home and
yeah,
making friends and taking care of us. And they liked it there.
really,
But
that's awesome.
it was also crazy times. It was the whole Noriega and everything going on with the canal and zoning and all of that. So it's
Yeah,
interesting now to look back. Now it's like a vacation destination. But when they
yeah,
left, they thought they'd never return.
that's crazy.
So
That's crazy.
I haven't been back since I was a baby, but one of these days I'll get down there and get on those beaches.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
You've been doing a lot of traveling too. I've been
Yeah.
seeing you be vacationing all the time, turning up, man.
Hey, sometimes you just need 2 days to get away. And sometimes they're really short, like 2 days
Yeah,
down in Palm Springs is my jam. Just
and
go
that's
there
one of
and
the things that
relax.
I'm like you though. Like I just need a couple days.
Yeah.
Just give me a couple days. I
Yeah.
mean, 3 days, 2 to 3 days away from this. The hustle and bustle of life. It always makes you feel so much better. The rejuvenation and all that. It's amazing. So
Absolutely.
I try and pride myself and tell my kids the same thing. When you guys get old enough, make sure you guys take your little three day vacays. Just getting away from it all.
Yeah.
It'll make you be able
Just
to
a
see the
little
light.
quick one.
Huh?
A little quick one. I got to really plan. If it's more than a week, I start to miss the tack.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. For sure.
So and obviously like once I'm comfortable international travel again, I'll plan a couple of things that are a little longer, but you're right. The 2-3 days that's the sweet spot.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So let's get into high school. So we
Okay.
met in high school, obviously.
We did.
Uh, you class of '95. I should have been right, but some things happen. Life happens, and so I ended up class of '96. But I'm '95 to the heart, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, so how was your time in high school? Did you have any issues? Did you deal with any problems with like race or anything like that? You know?
So that's funny. I loved high school. I mean, I've always been a super joiner. So I was swim team, basketball, fast pitch, student council. I was involved in all the thing band. I was in the band for the first couple of years. Um, but I always saw high school through two sets of eyes because my brother and I are very, very close, but we're very, very different.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he hated school. He hated it and
Right.
wasn't there a lot of the time. And so I had this different lens. And then my younger brother too, who's much younger, he went to a different school. So we just had these different experiences. And I truly believe that's part of what made me want to continue working in schools
Mhm.
was just knowing that there's the kids who love and hate it, but most of the kids are in the middle. Most
Right.
of the kids are just there because they're supposed to be.
Right.
And so how do I work to make that the best experience possible for all of those kids, but especially the ones in the middle who are the biggest group.
That are teetering,
Yeah.
on that edge of should I continue doing this or should I not? I was
Right.
one of those kids on the middle. I was
Right.
in the middle for a long time. It took me a while. Obviously, I deal with like obviously when you're someone that is going through a lot of things at home, with family or friends or being accepted,
Yeah.
like being in the middle is one of the hardest places to be because you get the wrong advice or the wrong
Yeah.
choice or wrong words and you're liable to fall off the edge. Just like
Uh-huh.
like you said, you and your brother were on two different wavelengths. Me and my brother was the exact same. I ended up graduating. He did. It's just how things go. But that is pretty interesting. Shout out to your brother too. How's he doing?
He's all right. He's all right. He's hanging in. I mean, he's definitely 100% Tacoma as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, he's good. He's really good.
Okay, so let's talk about what was the favorite. What was your most? What was your like most important person when you think back to high school? Your 4 years there. Who was the most important person that you could say
Oh
had
wow.
the hugest effect on your journey?
Oof. Um,
Because
well,
obviously you had it. You had it. I mean, we all seen it. You was dedicated. But there's always that one person that you think back to and you're like, man, that if it wasn't for that person,
yeah, yeah.
I probably wouldn't have made that choice to do whatever it is that I ended up doing to get me out of school.
Well, I mean, obviously, my parents are a huge influence, and they've always been such a great support for me. My parents are opposites in every way, and I
Hmm.
always felt like I had the best of both worlds because of the way they looked, the way they communicated, the way they carried themselves. But honestly, asking that question, I'm actually kind of surprised by my answer. There was a woman named Miss Combs who
Okay.
was a member of the Tacoma Human Rights Commission. And when I was a senior, actually, it might have started when I was a junior, I was a youth member of the Tacoma Human Rights Commission.
Oh, okay.
And that was a way for me to really see uh, how structures work. You know, I got to learn
Yeah.
about city government. I got to learn about city demographics. I got to learn about budgets. And it was just this little tiny, like 5 foot woman who I
Yeah.
think was in her 80s, who was
Wow.
still really active in the city. And so she was part of the Tacoma Human Rights Commission. I was a youth member. She used to pick me up from school to bring me to the meetings.
That's
And
awesome.
she was a real influence on me because she was a former educator who
Hmm.
had continued to work for change in this different way. And so,
Wow.
yeah, God rest her soul. Shout out to Roberta Combs. I hadn't thought about her for quite some time. And she was a lovely woman who had a big influence on me.
That's awesome. That's really cool. That's interesting. That's an
Yeah.
interesting answer. You was yeah. Well, because me, I always was a choir guy. So I always
Yeah.
when I think about people that saved me from myself or the streets, obviously Mr. Brumman. Shout out to Mr. Brumman. He did a lot for me, and he could have easily kicked me out of his classes when I wasn't going to any other classes, and focusing on just singing and nothing else, and he could have kicked me to the curb, but he took the initiative and said, "Hey, I'm gonna keep my mind and keep focused on you and help you through." And big guy, good guy to me, and still talk to him to this day. Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing person. So shout out to him.
It's
But
funny you say that actually because I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you
yeah,
when I think about you, I do think about choir and I think about your involvement in that way in high school. And we just hired a new choir teacher at Silas, and I'm so
okay,
excited for her to pull in some of the kids who are in the hallways who maybe don't know they can sing, or maybe they
yeah,
sing at church but they've never sung at school, or maybe they're just looking for something. So it's
yeah,
funny you say that because I was thinking about that the other day. I was thinking about you and Marcus and some of the other guys who were just
yeah,
choir to the core.
yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yep. I did choir more than I played sports, and I played sports just like you. I was a year round sports guy myself,
Yeah.
but choir was the thing,
Yep.
like it definitely saved me from the streets for real. Because there was a couple times where I just wanted to give up,
Yep.
and just, like forget school,
Yeah. Yeah.
forget it. But then I had second period choir, and then I had sixth period choir. So those I never missed those classes though.
No, I
Always made it on
gotta
time.
show up. I love it.
All right, so let's jump into after school.
Okay.
So for me, currently I've been working at my for the state for about 8 years, and before I started working for the state, I was working at a place called the Sylvester House,
Yeah.
which you obviously know a little bit about.
Mhm.
And one of the guys on my caseload of guys that I worked with, he went to Wilson,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't even realize that you were the principal over there until I think we had a conversation on the phone,
Yeah,
and we were
and I think I
talking.
was assistant at that time. I think I was assistant principal
Yeah,
at that
yep.
time. Yeah.
And yeah, we had a conversation. I didn't even know. And literally, I went to work that day, and my boss was like, "David, I need you to take this young fella to Wilson High School." I didn't know why I was taking him. I didn't know any. They didn't give me no information. I mean, I shouldn't be putting it out there like that, but it's the truth. It's the truth. They said, "Hey, get in the car, take him to school. He's got something he has to do there." And I said, "All right, you're gonna meet someone, such and that's what they told me." So we talked on the phone, and then it was like 5 o'clock. I ended up having to drop him off at the school to you,
Uh-huh.
right? I
Mhm.
ended up dropping it off to you,
Yep.
and it was just crazy because we had crossed paths, and I didn't even think about it. Uh, and the reason why I wanted to ask you about this is how important is kids from the bottom to the top, as far as the ones that are excelling and doing well
Yeah.
to the ones that are really, really needing help? How important are saving all of the kids instead of just, pinpointing on the ones that are doing great? You
Yeah.
actually want to see the ones that are struggling as well come through. How important is that to you?
Well, I mean, I think you already know. Like sometimes my favorites are the rascals, right?
Yeah.
Like the kids who just they're going to cuss you out, or they're going to tell you how it is, or but that passion is coming from somewhere, right? It's
Right.
experiences they've had. It's who they want to be and where they're headed, and the thing about working in public high school, and the reason why I love public school, is
Yeah.
because we get everybody. We get the kid who's just ready to soar. Like, when can I apply to Stanford? I've done this, and this, and this,
Yeah.
and I'm ready to just showcase what I've done, right? I'm ready.
Right.
And then we get the kid who maybe has no idea, or has an idea but has been beaten down so many times and not
Mhm.
allowed to soar, that they're looking for their in, right? Like double dutch, like,
Yeah.
when can I jump in there so that I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
show what I can do and what I know. And so this there's this term in education, actually not just education, but about the opportunity gap, right?
Mhm.
So there are students who just have not had the same opportunities as others. And so the public school setting is created to provide those opportunities, right?
Yeah.
How do you expose kids to as much as you possibly can so that they can start to make some decisions about what their future looks like? And that's why I love the big comprehensive high schools. And there are great things about the charters and the sodas and sammies and ideas of the world that provide a more nuanced or a more niche experience.
Mhm.
But the big high school is the place where you're going to provide the most opportunities and try to get the most kids access to whatever's next. And that's part of why I love being a principal and I love what I do, because it's just about getting everybody together to determine
Yeah.
those opportunities.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's amazing. Yeah, like, whew, man. I know some days it'd be tough though. You be getting those ones. You say I love you, but they just continue to push and push and push and push.
Yeah.
And yeah, I definitely feel you there. You have to continue to fight through as much as they don't want to uh, feed into what you have to say. You got to
Right.
continue digging and digging and digging until it eventually either they give it a shot or they don't. But
Well, in
just
high school too, I mean, they're young adults, right?
yeah,
So my staff is so great because they're really good about remembering that you're young adults, which means you've got some experiences and you know something, but you also don't know nothing because you're a teenager, right?
exactly.
So
Yeah,
walking that line is really important. And I tell kids, I don't have to be your cup of tea. I don't have to be your favorite, but there's an adult in this building somewhere who's going to help you to figure out, what is next.
right.
And that's the cool thing also about being at a bigger school. I got 100 staff members for kids to connect with. So it might not be me. You don't have to love me. That's cool. But you're going to find somebody who's going to help
There's
make
gonna be someone.
connections.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's awesome. All right, so let's jump into the portion of the show. where we talked about Miss Dolores Silas.
Okay.
Um, I have some notes here. I'm gonna go ahead and read them real quick, and then
Sure.
have you chime in. Uh, it says she was the first Black woman to serve on Tacoma City Council. She passed away this year, right?
She did. She did. Unfortunately, just recently, spring. Yeah, just this spring. So in fact, her memorial was just a handful of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's 94 years old.
yeah,
How important was this woman um, to women
yeah,
and getting into this type of work and a lot of the things that she has done? She's the first to do a lot of the things
yeah.
that she's done. How important is she to to you and to anyone else that is trying to be a part of this type of field of work?
Well, people use terms like trailblazer,
Yeah.
and I had the opportunity actually to speak at her memorial, and part of what I said is that she must have been so tired. And the reason I say that is because while I love my work, there are days where I am distinctly aware that I am a woman and that I'm a woman of color, because sometimes it just smacks you in the face, like um, I don't know, somebody will say something in a meeting and I think to myself, I could never say that. I would never be able to say that, because then I would be well, because I'm representing women, because I'm representing Black women, because I'm representing people of color, and I just have to walk a certain line. And I'm doing that now in 2021, and she was doing that in 1950.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so just, when you hear the term trailblazer and you think about just things she must have been called, assumptions people must have made, and she dealt with that every single day. And I don't like to focus on physical characteristics, but folks always point out how tiny she was. I mean, she was 5 feet lucky.
Yeah,
She
she's
was just
tiny.
this tiny fireball. And there are times in my work where, while I certainly don't want to intimidate by size, there are times where I'm glad that I'm a big woman. There's a fight on campus. I'm glad that I'm a big woman,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I can use my body to help to protect my students or the environment. She
Right,
couldn't do that. She had to
right,
be all, um, she had to be smarter than everybody.
right,
And that's a
right,
lot of pressure. Um, and I think I'm pretty sharp, but I don't have to be smarter than everybody.
right.
Um, and so
Sometimes you
I
just
just,
have to stand tall,
yeah,
and it
yeah.
works.
Sometimes I just gotta stand tall. And so I think about all the ways that she had to position, and how she must have had to be on her toes, I guess pun intended, all the time, because
Yeah,
she just couldn't slack. And and yet when I met her, she was still so full of joy and so full of fire. She didn't let anybody beat her down.
that's awesome.
And that's a lot of the reason why we decided to name the school after her, was not only because of her accomplishments,
Hmm.
but because of her carriage and her presence. She was special, and it actually really hit me hard when she passed, because I was so excited to spend more time with her and get to know her better.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but we're doing a lot of things here on campus to make sure that people know who she was and what was important to her. Little things like, oh, I have at her service, they gave out these little hats. She always wore hats.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And
Cute.
so we got these little hat pins, and we're going to make more, and kids are going to wear them, staff's going to wear them. We're going to start selling fedoras in the student store, just as a way to honor her and represent her.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, man, that's crazy. Um,
She must have been tired, like dealing
yeah,
with that for all those years. And
a
not
lot of
only
years. A
as
lot of
an
years.
educator, but then getting into city council and policy and government. Come on now.
So
That's a
where did the idea of changing the school name? Where did that all start?
Oh, okay. So Xavier Cooper, class of 2010. and former NFL player, came to me and said, I want you to take my jersey out of the Hall of Fame. And I said, what? And he said, well, I have a platform as a former professional athlete, and I feel a responsibility to use that platform to teach people about who Woodrow Wilson was. And he had heard about Princeton University changing the names of some buildings. I don't know if it was a library or what the space was, but they changed the Wilson names on their campus. And Xavier read about that and said, I can't support Woodrow Wilson as an individual, and so I need to utilize my platform. I want you to take my jersey out of the Hall of Fame because we have this beautiful case in the gym that has jerseys and other items from folks who have either played at the college level or at the professional level.
Okay.
And I said, well, hold on. You know, I've known X since he was a little kid, man. When I used to work at the Y when I was in college, he would always be there. So I've known him since he was like 8.
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, let's have a conversation. What does this really look like? And so he started, you know, explaining, these are my concerns. And I don't think it's representative of the students of the future. And I thought, this is what partnership is about. This is a community partnership where a member of the alumni community can come in and say, I don't think this is right. And I think we need to have a different conversation. Meanwhile, there were other community members who had contacted then Superintendent Santorno. And so she had called me and said, I'm hearing from some folks about the name. And Tacoma School District does have a name change policy. So she said, here's the policy, check it out and tell me what you think. And so I worked with Xavier and another community leader named Bill Dickens. I called them up and I said, I think we need to have this conversation. And so with their support and the support of Superintendent Santorno and then Deputy Superintendent Joshua Garcia, we decided that we'd move forward with a committee and start to talk about, do we want to change it? And if we do, what should it be? Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not really trying to get too in depth on the storyline behind Woodrow Wilson, but at the same time, what's the huge significance to where he was like, I need to take my name off of this,
right?
Take my stuff
so
out.
I mean, he was a president, and so there were some things that he did well. You know, people always note the League of Nations. There were some things that he did from an economic standpoint that were great for our country. But he was also a known racist, and that was the piece where Xavier was like, we can't do this. Wilson was always a school that pulled from a variety, like various parts of the city, right?
Yeah.
When I was in middle school at Hunt, a lot of my friends went to Wilson. A lot of kids from the Hill went to Wilson. And so it's always been a pretty diverse school. Certainly not as much as South End School. This isn't us. This isn't the legacy of Ram Country. And it's definitely not moving forward as city demographics continue to change. And, you know, it doesn't make sense for our community. So we did surveys. We talked to folks in the community. We were really intentional on our committee about having an economist, a historian, parents, students, alum, so that we would have different voices. We were also really intentional not to have the committee be all Black folks, because I didn't want it to be like, oh, the new Black principal and her Black friends rename the school after a Black woman. It was bigger than that. It was a bigger conversation about what makes the most sense for our community.
Did you guys get a lot of backlash from alumni about changing the name?
Yeah. You know, most folks were supportive. Even a lot of people who said, that's my school and I don't want the name to change, but I understand. Yeah. But the loudest voices are always the opponents. And so there were, even though they weren't the majority, there were a lot of folks who were opposed to it. And I got nasty voicemails and emails and called some things. And to me, that's all just more and more reason that it was time to change it.
Yeah.
So go ahead, leave me a nasty voicemail. You're just supporting what the rest of the community is saying and why we need to change it.
Yeah, that's crazy. Whew. Yeah, that must have been a tough one right there.
It was
But at the
hard,
same
but
time, it was for the right reason.
it was. It
You know.
was. And students, there were students who didn't want the name to change, and most of those who didn't want it to change were their rationale was because it's a good place, and it is a good place. Wilson High School has always been a good school.
Right.
Great athletic programs, phenomenal academic programs, high graduation rate. Um, the improved physical space of the campus.
Yeah.
But just because you're a good school doesn't mean you can't be better. And the name change is just the beginning of, okay, now what do we need to do curricularly? What do we need to do to make sure that all students are included? And, not just students of color. Some folks, I think, assumed that because we named the school after a Black woman, that was the focus. And that is a focus. But we're also talking about, how do we make sure students with disabilities are completely included on our campus? What about students on the LGBTQIA spectrum? The world is changing, and we need to be prepared to serve all of our students.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's what Dr. Silas stood for. And that's a big part of why we decided that her name made the most sense.
For sure. So, you guys are starting back to school next week.
Yeah.
What changes have you guys done to, just keep people safe as far as staff, students, COVID, the whole night, everything that's going on right now? What changes have you guys made?
Yeah. So it's funny because we're trying to align. Like, the name change is one thing. With the name change comes a whole bunch of rebranding.
Right.
But also having full-time for a year and a half, that also comes with a lot of rebranding or things that we've learned.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about student safety, we're absolutely talking about COVID, and we're talking about making sure kids are masking, distancing, and washing their hands. But we're also talking about student emotional safety and their intellectual safety, because a lot of kids didn't do well when they were out of school. There were some who soared, but most of them struggled. And so part of that is, okay, how do we transition back in? How do we do a slow roll instead of a fire hose? Or for the kids who really need, they're like, no, I'm ready, let's do this. How do we make sure that we're meeting all of those needs? So when we talk about safety, it's a lot of different things. Details like lunches, how many kids are in the lunchroom at one time? Part of the reason that high schools in Tacoma did the hybrid model last year was because kids didn't show up until 11. We didn't serve lunches last year. Well, we did. They were available, but most of our kids ate at home and then came to school for half a day. So we didn't have a ton of kids in the lunchroom. Now we got to think about, okay, we got to keep kids 6 feet apart, 3 feet apart in the classroom, but when they're eating and unmasked, they're supposed to be 6 feet apart. So we can only get 100 kids in the lunchroom at a time. We have 500 kids per lunch. So we got to have teachers open up their classrooms so that some kids can eat in there. But then we're putting our teachers at risk because there's people unmasked in their classroom. So just all those details are what's being worked out right now. And so that's all safety. But then also thinking about, we got a lot of kids who are anxious because they've been in the house for a year and a half.
Yeah.
So that's a different type of safety, right? How do we make sure that they're comfortable sitting among their peers and sharing ideas in class? So that means that teachers are coming up with all different kinds of strategies, protocols, different types of assessments for students. It's a whole new game, really. Yeah. It's a whole new game.
Yeah, it's crazy. So many things. When you put it like that, how many kids do you guys plan on? What is the total you guys are going to be at this year for kids?
Right now, we're at just under 1,200. But at Silas, our sweet spot, we like to have 1,250 to 1,300. That's our magic number. So right now, we're just under 1,200 students. And I think that last I heard, the biggest school in the city is Lincoln. And the smallest school, of the comprehensives is Foss. but I think IDEA, one of the partner schools, is the smallest, and I think they have 400 to 500 students. But our sweet spot's 12 to 13.
That's crazy to think. 1,300 students. I think when we was at stadium,
there were more.
It was way more than that.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was like $2,000. Easy.
Yeah, there were in the 90s. There was 90s and I think early 2000s. Wilson had like 2,000. When the new Mount Tahoma opened up, they were huge. Yeah. So it kind of ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the unique things too about Silas is that while we are one of the smaller big schools, so Mount Tahoma Stadium and Lincoln are all bigger than we are, but we pull the most from outside of our catchment area. So catchment area is a term for schools, the students who live in your neighborhood. You know, we say neighborhood school, but the way the state funding works, it's called a catchment area. So 1/3 of Silas students come from outside of our catchment area, which is a lot.
Yeah.
So 33% of our kids come from elsewhere in Tacoma or Parkland, Spanaway, UP. We got kids who live in Gig Harbor, only a couple, but they come from all over to be in this spot, which is cool.
That's cool though.
Yeah.
It means you got something good going on over there.
Yeah, and we value that too, because there's something to be said for all those kids bringing in their different experiences and their different lenses. I love a neighborhood school, but I do love that 33% of ours come from outside the neighborhood.
Yeah. So let's jump into your health.
Okay.
I'm gonna venture over there real quick because I really I commend you on wanting to get out there and not be afraid to share your journey and everything that you've been dealing with and going through and the changes that continue to happen in your life. So let's talk about what inspired you to want to start this journey.
Yeah.
Because you've always been Bernadette. We know Bernadette. Anybody that knows Bernadette, she's tall, she's ready, she's not really afraid of what y'all got to offer because she got it. She's there,
I have always been a solidly average athlete, but I was an athlete. So yeah, I was never really celebrated. I was the kid who always went to districts in high school, but I never went to state, right? I was a solidly average athlete. Put me on the relay team.
She was an athlete.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people that can say that they were an athlete, but she was an athlete.
Well, so I have had, I've had a journey, man. The last 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. And so I had cancer. I did 3 surgeries, 18 weeks of chemo, 6 weeks of radiation, just like killed it. Right. Yeah. And I remember my doctor was like, "You're young and strong and otherwise healthy, so we're going to blast your body, basically." Mm-hmm. And that's what happened, with chemo and radiation. And then after that, I never thought I was going to die. I was always confident that I was going to be okay. But then after that, there was this time where it's like, okay, so now do I take excellent care of myself so that I try to live forever? Or do I carpe diem, seize the day, party down, because who knows what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
and I really struggled with finding a midpoint there. I was like, you got to do one or the other.
Yeah.
So I continued to work out. I always worked out, but I ate. And just in this last year, during the pandemic, I realized, girl, you got to take better care of yourself. You got to dial in your nutrition because you can't serve your students if you're not taking care of yourself.
Right.
Also, in that last 10 years, I also have type 2 diabetes. So it's like I've had cancer, diabetes, and now I have asthma because I'm allergic to mold, and we live in the Pacific Northwest. And so allergy turned into asthma.
Yeah.
So I got to take better care of myself. And during the pandemic, I had a friend who asked me if I was ready to make a change. Shout out to Pat and Steph Toohey, who own Habit strength and conditioning downtown. And Pat said, I think you're ready. I've known Pat since I was a kid because we swam Tacoma Swim Club together. And I said, I don't know if I'm ready, man. I really like Karina Bakery cupcakes.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm ready. And he said, you're ready. And so we started on this journey. Pat's my nutritional coach. And I've lost 75 pounds and
Amazing.
I want to go about 20 more. But it was mainly, the difference this time was it wasn't about fitting into a certain pair of jeans. It was about not taking metformin for my diabetes. I don't want to take drugs if I don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So because the motivation was different, because I've lost weight before, but this time the motivation was different. And there's something about being in your 40s, man. I'm 44. I'm smarter.
Me both, sister.
Yeah, I'm smarter now. And it's different motivation. And so, yeah, I'm going to keep plugging. And now I can have push-up contests with my students at pep assemblies. Boom.
Got him.
But I'll be real mad when I get beat.
Yeah, for sure. So,
Phone's ringing.
yeah, to me, I was absolutely amazed by your pictures, just seeing how open you were about the changes that were going, and I really want to do the stairs.
Yeah.
I want to do them, and then to watch you do them, it just really like inspired me. And mind you, I'm just like you. I'm all about my health, and I feel like I'm healthy most of the time, but I love to eat as well.
Mhm.
I eat whatever I want, and I never really worry about if I'm ever gonna die.
Mhm.
Up until recently, I've kind of been in that mind frame. I got a 3-year-old son. I really want to be. Am I going to be around? I
Yeah.
mean, I went to the doctor, and they're telling me that I have high blood pressure. I need to get on all this medication, and I'm like, I'm
Yep.
not really about medication. I don't really want to be popping pills my whole life and all that. So I just decided to work out more and eat less of the junk. I mean, I'm like you. You said Karina Bakery. I'm like, I know all about that spot. I know all about that. I go to Connie's Bakery right down the street. I can run there, get my exercise in running there just to go buy me some donuts and eat some. But I know I just gotta be smarter and just like you said, 44 years old. I'm no spring chicken anymore. You know what I'm saying? I want to be around to obviously be with my kids, but also do a good job at what I do, because I work with adults with disabilities, and I enjoy it, and I love the opportunity to teach them new things. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, push up contest. I can do that there too. I mean, they don't want it, but but it's like you said, you want to be able to be around and not just be there, but actually engage and include them in
Live.
things that they do. Because we're both athletes.
Uh,
And we think we're invincible until we hit our 40s, and then we we get that wake up call like, hello.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's been pretty crazy, but at the same time, we're still here. We're still pushing.
Well, and we got to say too, I mean, Black folks, we got to do better. We just do. We got to stop saying like, oh, it's in my genetics. Well, yes and no. When I was back visiting family this summer, I was like, okay, so yes, genetics is a factor, but as far as it's nature nurture, right? Environmentally, we don't eat well. We don't exercise enough. We don't take care of ourselves.
Right.
And so I've really, social media has been a great way too, to see this wave of, I follow this one page, Black women losing weight. And it's just this community of women who are like, no, we need to do better. We need to do better because we're repeating this cycle of teaching our kids to cook fried foods and, all this cholesterol. And that's fine for a treat, but day to day, we got to do better and take better care of ourselves.
Absolutely.
So that awareness, I think, is really important. And things that are good for you are delicious.
Absolutely. So let me ask you a weird question, and I shouldn't even ask it, but I'm going to. What would Bernadette be doing if she wasn't working with kids?
That's funny. I've thought about this before. I have a thing I don't know how to describe it other than a thing, um, for design. Man,
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know. Did you see on my social media my goldfinch couch? I got a yellow couch.
I've seen that. I've
I'm
seen
so
that.
pumped on this couch. And I think I would do something with design. I don't know if it would be like interior or if it would be photography, but something. I have a thing about aesthetics and symmetry, and there's not a ton of time for that as an educator, but I think that I would do something with design, um,
Okay.
and help people to make their spaces beautiful, regardless of what their budget is. Because I think there's something to be said for that. So there's something to be said for the space that you inhabit and how it makes you feel.
So like a home designer for people that buy new houses and maybe help them, put
Pro-
together.
Probably, I don't know if it would be real estate or if it'd be like interior design.
Yeah.
It might even be like clothing or art, just something with design. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you got style when it comes to 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 clothing too. So I mean, I can see that. I
Thank
see
you.
that you be mixing it up.
Some days my students be like, Miss Ray, what are you doing? I'll wear, I'll wear
What are
something.
those?
Yeah, what are those? But no, when I went to before the pandemic, the year before, I went to China on an exchange to look at Chinese schools and talk about potential like student exchanges and whatnot. And I never thought I would go to China, so it was cool. But
Yeah,
I was in the back alleys buying the Supreme fanny packs.
yeah.
So everybody on all four of the principals at Silas have Supreme fanny packs that we wear with like masks in them or band-aids, whatever we need. And the
Nice.
kids be like, let me get the fanny pack though. I'm like, you can't have
It's
a
coming
Supreme.
back though. It's really coming back. I've
Yeah,
been seeing a lot of people with the fanny packs.
yeah,
Everybody's copping them now. I
yeah.
haven't got it yet, but
They
I
can't have
see a
my
lot of my friends. They be doing it. They ain't afraid. Shoot, be online, showing pictures,
I know
doing shows. I mean, come on now.
it's true. It's true. They be trying
Crazy.
to really get my fanny pack.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pass on the fanny pack though. Just for now. Just for now. Uh,
Just for now.
just now. We'll see. We'll see what the future holds.
You'll come over
Um.
here.
So let's what's next? So what's next
Uh,
for Bernadette? What she got going on next?
hey, I'm going to be the principal of Silas High School until either they kick me out or I start not liking kids. If I start to
Yeah,
get crotchety and I don't like being around teenagers anymore,
yeah,
um, because I do love teens. They're funny. They're trying to figure out who they are. People are kind of scared of them and they know it. They're
yeah,
sassy. I love them.
yeah.
But if they start to annoy me, I'll know it's time to do something else. But I can't change the name of the school and then bounce. So I'm here for a while because
Yeah, that's true.
we've got work to do. We've got work to do to continue to make Silas the best place it can be while honoring the history and the tradition of Wilson. We're not erasing what happened the first 60 years this school was open because
Right.
it's a great place. So a lot of work to be done, and my staff is ready. My principal team is incredible. Rindy Hartman, who went to school here, Allie Bennett, who is a California transplant, but she's all tack now,
Yeah.
and Carl Hoseth as well, who grew up in Parkland as a PLU guy. It's just a great group of people helping to lead the work. So the first thing to do really is to increase student voice. I feel like we do an okay job of that,
Yeah.
but we got to hear more from our students and what they want out of high school.
Right.
And they're ready to tell us, especially after this last couple years of being out. So the first thing is increasing student voice.
I'm sure there'll be a lot more talking because they've been cooped up for so long. They
Yeah.
probably got a lot to say. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. So that's going to be an exciting time. Hopefully, everybody speaks. Even the ones that don't necessarily talk a lot, they share
Yeah.
their knowledge and their hearts with y'all, and I'm excited. I'm excited to watch you do your thing. I'm gonna be hovering a little bit. I'll be around. I'm not going anywhere. This is my town, and I mean, even though I'm a stadium guy to the heart, I mean, obviously, I'll come over to Silas and say hello, and you
Yeah.
know, I actually have a mug. I'm gonna bring you one of these mugs too. These are one of our
Oh,
Circle
cool.
mugs.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got one for you here at the house. I'll bring it to you when I get some free time. But I do appreciate you sitting down and chopping it up with me, sharing your story and all the knowledge and information that you do have for the people. I'm glad we got this. We finally had this go, and hopefully everybody that's watched it enjoyed it. And yeah, I definitely thank you. Thank you so much. Is there a bunch of mugs behind you? I keep looking at your
Uh-huh.
head, and is that a bunch of mugs?
That is Wilson
Are
High
they in the
School through the
cafeteria?
years. Through the years. So it starts at 01
Yeah.
and it goes through 17. So my predecessor and mentor, Dan Bissett, who was the principal of Wilson High School for 17 years, I think, those are all his mugs from his reign. And
Wow.
so I keep those to remember him and hear his voice in my head because he's definitely a mentor. He was a little upset with me about the name change. I think. He really wanted us to be Russell Wilson High School, and I was like, nah,
What?
man, nah.
Russell Wilson High School. I
Uh,
mean, he's great, but
yeah, he's great. I love Russell, but we when we got a Dolores Silas, we're not going to be
yeah,
Wilson High
yeah,
School.
someone that's already paved the way for many women and people of color.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And I want to thank you too because you're paving the way by highlighting folks in our community. I think about all the people I know up north. You know how the Seattleites, they still hate on the tech,
yeah.
and there's a lot of good things happening in our community. So thank you for highlighting folks and sharing the love. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, I mean, I'm just trying to do the right thing. It's been a long journey, a long 44 years of trying to figure out why I'm put on this earth and what I'm supposed to be doing. And I think God has brought me to this place where He wanted me to give back and highlight, like you said, highlight people that are doing things that the people that are online, whether it's YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, that watch this might not know about and need to hear. And
Yeah,
so, I love it, and I love meeting and learning about people, learning a lot of things that I didn't know. Because
yeah,
yeah, there has been a lot of people that I've interviewed that I've grew up with and shared some time with, but there's also been some people that I didn't know, I just heard about, and have really made me see things differently when it comes to my journey and the way that I walk and the way that I talk and the way that I
yeah,
deal with different situations and stuff. So it's been great to learn, and pick up little pieces of each individual that I interviewed. Like I didn't know that you were from, you know, I didn't know you weren't born here. I thought
yeah.
you was from here all day, every day.
I had to
But
get
then,
naturalized, everything.
yeah,
I had dual citizenship. I had to go to Seattle when I was like 5 and say that I want to live in the United States of America.
yeah.
My mom was like, say yes.
And that's crazy to me because I never knew that.
Yeah.
But that's the great thing about doing these interviews is that you get to learn
Yeah.
about people and the things that they've done or the things that they are planning to do that you
Right.
didn't know about. And so it's been amazing. It's been an amazing journey, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
Hey, that
I'm
reminds
glad that
me.
you made it.
If I can have one more second. So
Sure.
this year's theme. So every year at school we have a theme, and this year's theme is the word and the idea of Ubuntu. Ubuntu. And a lot of people don't know about Ubuntu. I was introduced to it from Desmond Tutu,
Hmm.
and it's the idea. It's hard to translate, but it's really the idea that I am because we are. And I feel like a lot of I don't know. There's been a lot of me, not we, politically and just in the community lately. And I'm way more about the we over the me.
Oh
And
yeah, for
so
sure.
this idea of Ubuntu, I am because we are, it also can translate to the idea that God exists in the connections between individuals. So you're doing God's work, and I really appreciate it. And I'm excited for this school year. Thanks for sharing the time with me.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I'm excited to see where you guys go. I know it's going to be an amazing year. I know there's going to be a lot of amazing things that happen, and like I'm excited. I'm
Yeah,
excited for you. I'm excited for the changes that are coming. I mean, it sounds like it's already going in the right direction. There's always going to be
right.
that little bump, but hey, I think you're doing an amazing job over there, and you know, keep doing what you're doing.
Thank
You know,
you. Go Rams.
you're awesome. So on this note, we're gonna go ahead and close up shop, guys. Thank you so much for being here again, Bernadette. You're amazing. We got to get together and do some stairs. Even if we walk them, I'm with it.
Yeah,
I'm still kind of getting over the COVID a little bit. I'm not at 100%, but every day is a new opportunity to get better. And so I get out here and run or walk these streets, whatever my body decides it wants to do that day. You know, but we definitely got to link up, even if it's just to do coffee or whatnot. I got this mug for you,
absolutely.
and I appreciate you. You're doing awesome, and I wish you all the best moving forward. Um,
Thank you.
but you guys, thank you so much for watching. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your day. We will be back next week with William Winfred, and so that's it. Have a wonderful day. Talk to you guys later.
Peace out.